5 years ago in 2009, $20.20. Average February temperatures for major world cities in Celsius. City: Washington, D.C. High, 13 degrees. Low, 3.2 degrees. 2009 average high, 8.2 degrees. 2009 average low, negative 1.2 degrees. Beijing: High, 30.2 degrees. Low, 5 degrees. 2009 average high, 4.2 degrees. 2009 average low, negative 7 degrees. Tokyo: High, 12.3 degrees. Low, 3 degrees. 2009 average high, 9.2 degrees. 2009 average low, 0.1 degree. Rome: High, 16.5 degrees. Low, 5.2 degrees. 2009 average high, 13.5 degrees. 2009 average low, 4.7 degrees. Johannesburg: High, 19.1 degrees. Low, 7.5 degrees. 2009 average high, 24.8 degrees. 2009 average low, 14.7 degrees. Personal Chronicle, looking back to 2014. Marcus: In the late winter of 2014, your Uncle Josh had stunned the world by appearing at the United Nations in New York City, telling the world how he had seen Chinese soldiers slaughter his scientific team and dozens of Vietnamese peasants. He brought back video and pictures. They were horrible images. Little children dead, a nursing mother. I feel sick when I think of them. The images are burned into my brain. But even with this evidence, the people of the world were not convinced that the Chinese were a great threat that had to be stopped. Their leader, Premier Zhou Enlai, was an evil man, but he was very clever. He plotted to undermine the evidence that your uncle had brought back, and to kill him and the people who helped him escape. But that was just our own personal tragedy. The whole world teetered on the brink of war. Far away in Southeast Asia, Vietnam was about to be overrun. A few ships from the American Navy and a handful of advisors from the Army were all that stood in the way. Lies. 1. Beijing. Premier Zhou Enlai watched the American on the video screen dispassionately, willing himself to study the man and what he said with the mind of a scientist and observer. The American's message was one of venom directed at Zhou and his people, the Chinese country, and especially the Chinese army. It made Zhou boil with anger and lust for vengeance. He wanted with all his heart to punch his hand through the video screen, to smash it, or better, to punch through the screen and somehow take this Josh MacArthur by his skinny, blotchy neck and strangle him. Zhou could almost feel the boy's thorax collapsing beneath his hands. Boy. That was what he was. Not a scientist, not a man, a boy, a rodent, scum. No one would take him seriously if not for the images he'd brought back. They flashed on the screen as the scum's voice continued to speak. The Chinese translation played across the bottom of the screen, but Zhou had no need for it. He spoke English reasonably well, and in any event, the images themselves told the story. All of his careful planning to make the invasion look as if the Vietnamese had instigated the war was threatened by this scum. It mattered nothing to Vietnam. Vietnam would be crushed no matter what the world thought. China needed its rice and oil, and it would have it. But this threatened the next step. For Zhou knew that his country's appetite was insatiable. The people who thronged the streets of Beijing, not far from his compound, were desperately short of food. Keeping them satisfied was an impossible task. Impossible for anyone but him. The last two governments had toppled in rapid succession, each lasting less than 2 short months thanks to food riots and dissension. Zhou had used the unrest to maneuver himself to power, promising to end the disturbances. He would remain in power only as long as he could keep that promise. It was not that he had any enemies. The most prominent had met unfortunate accidents over the past few months, or else been exposed in corruption trials, or, in a few cases, bought off with timely appointments outside the country. But as his own rise had shown, it was not the prominent one who had to fear in the chaos of the moment, it was the obscure. Zhou had risen from a job as lieutenant governor for agriculture in the parched western provinces. 2 years before, no one in Beijing would even have known.